live. Hello everyone. It is Friday, 23rd of January. This is one of the Friday morning live calls. It's only the second time I've gone live on Substack. I just did the whole call thinking I was live, and then at the end of it, when I went to end it, I saw the button go live that I hadn't followed all the steps to actually be live. So let's do it all over again. I'll see if I can remember what I said. It won't be the same, and that is just fine. So Kate is not with us today, I think, right now. She's on an airplane on her way to Costa Rica for the next stage of World School with her daughter, and fingers crossed she'll be able to join us in a fortnight. Might be the case that once she lands, we have to find a different time to bring her in to share what she is learning and teaching and experiencing. But Kate, best wishes wherever you are. So on these community calls, I like to do an update of where the research is at, what I'm working on, what the next steps are. There's so much coming up in the calendar for 2026, and I set up a project management spreadsheet yesterday. Even then, when I look at it all, it's like, I'm going to do all this. And things are rapidly reaching the stage where I'm having to say no unless the work is well paid, because so much of what's in the calendar is unpaid commitments and, high stress levels here. In addition, today I'm a little bit mentally scattered. We've got events unfolding in New Zealand. There's been severe weather in a few parts of the country, massive flooding. And I'm watching one news story in particular, Mount Maunganui campground. The landslide has trapped people, and I don't. I was looking at the news half an hour ago. I think they're still looking, praying, hoping to find survivors. So, yesterday I had this just in the face of powerlessness in these events. And the sun's shining, we're not drowning. What do you do? That I had an urge to stir CPP, to sit with a bucket of water and send intentions into the earth out. Um, yeah. So today I am going to make the next batch of CPP. I've got something like $10,000 worth of CPP in a container in the garage. You know, when you buy it, it's a little handful that you get for about $20. That at that value, it's about $10,000 worth of CPP. I make beautiful CPP. I'm very, very proud of it. So, in the spirit of the new focus of research, Blue Borage Research Centre, I'll make 2 batches of CPP side by side. I've got 2 pits, and the variable that I'm going to test this time round is with the eggshell. One batch will get the same old eggshell as normal, and the other batch I am going to use crushed snail shells. So, since early December, I have been studying the snails, particularly the mucin, the snail slime. That's a jar of mucin I've collected there. At present, I'm got a diluted batch that I'm spraying on the glossy leaves of houseplants just to see how they respond. I had to repot all my houseplants, so I've got identical plants side by side. Now, crushed snail shell is also used medicinally in skincare, all sorts of applications. And while I've been studying snails, I find all these remains from what the birds have eaten. That is what I will crush. I can't decide whether to sort of boil them to clean out the soil from inside. Probably just crush them. The ones like this that are beautiful and intact and whole, they were also found in the garden. So I don't know if the snail died a natural death or if a bird pecked it without breaking the shell. So I was curious this morning to look back at Maria Twins book on results from the biodynamic sowing and planting calendar. She developed CPP together with Aaron Freed Pfeiffer. And I've written a post over on LinkedIn that goes into a little more detail about why they developed it and what they were testing for. But they looked at snail shells, crushed snail shells, along with the basalt and the eggshell and some other substances. And I kind of feel like maybe our question has changed. Maybe the motivation has changed. Maybe it's worth looking at the snail shells again. And so that is beginning today. If you know of anyone else anywhere in the world who makes CPP with the snail shells, please let me know. Okay, so coming back to the floral compost activator and Mae Bruce's quick return method, I am also going to use the floral compost activator instead of the normal biodynamic compost preparations in today's CPP. That's partly a cost factor, also because I'm saving my compost preparations for a few other projects out in the community. So, I mentioned that I did I've already spoken through this call when I thought I was live and I wasn't. So that's the jar of floral compost activator that I just made this morning. You can see me making this and other videos, other calls here on the flower project. So I'm not going to make an additional batch again, but it's that. And the other thing I wanted to report back was the comparison of the two batches that I made Friday morning 2 weeks ago. I have been wanting to watch the difference between fresh flowers and dried flowers over time. So shaking them up, a few more bubbles in that one. This one is more sort of stable. This smells amazing. It's like medicine, and there's one fragrance coming through stronger, and I can't quite work out what it is. It's not the valerian or the chamomile. You can kind of sense the honey, but there's another smell. Whereas this one that I made with fresh flowers, it just smells gross. It smells like rotten flowers. And I guess the next thing to test would be to use the fresh flowers, but strain the material after, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days, and then watch the two batches compared to each other. Okay, so that's that. Looking through my list. Oh, I think the last call I was talking about the 8-tray experiment where I had 10 different types of seeds over 2 punnets and then 4 methods of watering them: the floral compost activator, CPP, the snail mucin, and then a control of water. So I set that all up beautifully, and then one night I forgot to bring it inside from the garage. I went out the next morning and a mouse had gone in and just pulled out all the sunflower seeds, and I was so angry at myself for forgetting that. I have set up another experiment, but I was out of town away from home for a couple of days, and I had to put all my seedlings in the back of the car as a greenhouse, and things got kind of too hot, and I have to do that over again. This is part of the joy of an independent research centre, right? So, next thing for this call today is I want to start reading from Mae Bruce's book, Common Sense Compost Making by the Quick Return Method. So we read this as a study group starting this time last year. So this is kind of round 2, year 2. And every time I read her words, it reminds me why I saw this project as worth devoting basically a year of my life to, why I felt it had to get into mainstream biodynamics and mainstream gardening and act as a bridge between those two worlds. And yeah, just how little has changed since she wrote this in 1946. So here's first two paragraphs from chapter 1. It's an introductory note. Here is a curious fact. It has taken a world war to revive and strengthen the human love of the soil. Throughout the ages, we find that work on and with the soil has meant fertility, health, prosperity. But as soon as man began to exploit it for gain or neglect it from sloth, fertility ceased. The life departed from the earth, soil erosion followed, and vast tracts of land were invaded by sand and dust, with the result that once fertile country was turned into desert and dust bowl, and the process still goes on. Nature is slow to retaliate, but terribly sure. The lesson may be learned on every continent, either as the result of neglect in the long past or from the concentrated and constant exploitation of a century. The first, neglect, is typified by the deserts of North Africa, once the granary of Rome, and by the derelict lands in Palestine and Transjordania, once the land flowing with milk and honey. Second, exploitation is shown by the dust bowls of America. Here was virgin soil, rich in natural humus. The utmost was extracted from the land, no living matter was returned, and consequently, the life went out of the soil and it returned to dust. The results are being faced at last, and taken to heart with courageous enterprise and a stirring of national conscience. In New Zealand, deep anxiety is expressed because of the exploitation of land by the use of chemical fertilizers and of widespread deforestation. In Australia, great tracts are suffering from drought, soil erosion, diminishing fertility from the same causes. From East Africa come accounts of virgin land exploited, doped with chemicals till it becomes useless, then left derelict for a repetition of the same procedure a little farther on. How much has changed? So, the rest of her book, she talks about her experience with the biodynamic movement, the anthroposophical farming movement in the UK, and how she left and created this recipe by herself, guided by the flowers themselves, and the results she was able to prove over 10 years. This is after she had worked on this method for 10 years. So I'm in year 2. I wonder what it would look like 9 years from now when I can say I've been doing this for 10 years. Difference between May Bruce and myself is she owned her own land. I think she came from a wealthy family, and I am here needing to pay bills week to week, month to month, and constantly seeking funding for this work to progress. So huge gratitude to everyone who supports my work either on Ko-fi or here on Substack or through hiring me to come and do a consultation, the workshops. It all helps tremendously. So I should be back in 2 weeks' time, and follow along on Instagram stories as I make the CPP today, crush the snail shells, and then LinkedIn and Medium is where I tend to share the written, more sort of academic style writing of the benefits of snail shells. So over and out for now.